explaining the upcoming home crash. All right, folks, let's chat about the U.S. housing market, a real roller coaster over the past few years. For 41 straight months, home prices have been on a seemingly unstoppable climb, creating a tricky situation for house hunters and a dream scenario for those playing the market. From February 2019 to June 2022, the Case-Shiller Index, which is kind of like the temperature gauge of housing prices, shot up by a jaw-dropping 51%. In some hotspots like Seattle, the increase was even crazier, soaring over 100%. This unprecedented boom has left many scratching their heads, wondering if we're on the brink of a massive bubble, similar to the early 2000s. So, where are we heading? YouTube, Wall Street, and pretty much every finance platform is abuzz with debates. You've got folks on both sides of the fence, armed with all sorts of stats and theories. But let me tell you, there's one chart that cuts through the noise better than anything else I've seen. It's the Case-Shiller Index, but with a twist. It's filtered by year-over-year change, going all the way back to 1987. Picture this chart as a big, colorful storybook of American real estate, stretching over 35 years. Now, this story is divided into 5 chapters, each with its own twists and turns. We started in the early 90s, which was kind of a tough time for house prices. Think of it as a rough patch where prices went down instead of up. Especially in places like Los Angeles, homeowners weren't too happy because their house values took a hit. Then, as we turn the page to the next chapter, things start to look up. We're in the golden age, from the early 90s right up to the early 2000s. This was a great time for the housing market. Houses were gaining value, the economy was doing well, and people were feeling confident about buying homes. It was like a sunny period where everything seemed to be going just right. But that's not the whole story. Every good story has its ups and downs, and the American real estate story is no different. We've got more chapters to go through, each with its own unique part of this long, unfolding tale. As we entered the 2000s, it felt like everyone suddenly wanted a slice of the real estate pie. This enthusiasm turned into greed, inflating the housing market to crazy levels. Picture this. Home prices were skyrocketing, and it felt like they would keep going up forever. But by September 2005, reality set in, and we started sliding into what's now known as the Great Financial Crisis. This wasn't just a small bump. It was a 7-year stretch where the real estate market was pretty much dead in the water. Fast forward to after 2012, and it's like the market woke up from a long nap, with housing prices slowly getting back on their feet. Then something big happened in March 2020. The market shifted into high gear like a car on the freeway, with home prices jumping a whopping 20.7% in a year. It was a wild ride, but then, come May 2022, things got shaky. The housing market hit a snag, and for the next 7 months, we saw the growth rate slipping down. This got a lot of smart folks scratching their heads, wondering if we're on the edge of another big crash. It's like watching the same story unfold again and again. The market crashes, then it picks itself up, prices start soaring, and bam, it crashes again. It's this never-ending loop of highs and lows that keeps everyone guessing what's next. Here's the thing about the current housing market. Lots of people are saying, hey, there won't be a crash because there just aren't enough houses for sale. But hold on a minute, let's dig a bit deeper. The big picture across the country might show that there aren't many houses up for grabs. But if you look closely, it's not the same everywhere. Let's take a little trip down memory lane to the last major housing crash in 2008. Back then, cities like Phoenix and Las Vegas got hit really hard. They were the early warning signs, kind of like those canaries in old mines that alerted miners to danger. These cities started showing signs of trouble way before the rest of the country caught on. Now, why is this important? Well, it shows us that not every place is the same. Some areas might be fine for now, but others could already be showing signs that things are going south. It's kind of like when some clouds start gathering on one side of the sky. It might be sunny where you are, but those clouds could be heading your way, bringing a storm with them. So even though the overall number of houses for sale might seem low, don't be fooled. In some spots, the market could already be cooling off. And if history repeats itself, this could be a hint that a bigger change is coming for everyone. Let's jump to the present, the year 2023, where things in the housing market are playing out like a drama with two main characters, the East Coast and the West Coast. Over on the West Coast, in places like San Francisco, house prices are starting to dip. But if you look over to the East Coast and Midwest, they're still riding the high wave of their 2022 prices. It's like two different worlds. To get a clearer picture, I did a bit of number crunching. I took data from Realtor.com and looked at homes up for sale in 5 big cities on the West Coast and compared them with 5 from the East Coast. Here's the surprising part. Since January 2020, the number of homes for sale on the West Coast dropped by about 34%. But hold on, because on the East Coast, it's a whole different story. Their numbers have plummeted by an eye-popping 63%. That's huge. This got me thinking, why such a big difference? It's like in the West, some folks are ready to sell, but in the East, people are holding on tight to their homes. It's a bit of a puzzle, really. The West Coast is showing signs of cooling down, with more houses up for grabs, while the East Coast seems to be in a holding pattern, with not many homes on the market. This split between the coasts is something we haven't really seen much before, and it's changing the way we think about the national housing market. Think of the housing market like a dance, with the East Coast and West Coast as dance partners. Usually they move together in harmony, perfectly in sync. But right now, it's like they've got different tunes playing in their heads. The West Coast is starting to show more houses for sale, kind of like it's stepping back to how things were before the pandemic. More homes on the market, and more options for buyers. Now, imagine if the East Coast starts doing the same thing. It's like both coasts suddenly deciding to put lots more houses up for sale at the same time. Here's what this could mean. We might end up with a whole bunch of houses for sale and not enough people wanting to buy them. This is what folks call a supply glut. It's like having a ton of apples in the market but not enough people wanting apples. What happens then? The price of apples, or in this case houses, starts to drop, and not just a little drop. We could see prices really start to slide downwards. That's the scenario we might be looking at if both coasts keep moving in this direction. So, what's the verdict? As we step into 2023, let's talk about where the housing market might be heading. See, housing crashes are kind of like long roller coaster rides. They go up and down over the years. Right now, it feels like we're at one of those scary parts of the ride where you're not sure if you're about to go down fast. A lot of folks have been saying, hey, there aren't enough houses for sale, so prices can't crash. But things might be changing quicker than we thought. Here's the deal. On the West Coast, there are signs that the market is starting to shake, kind of like leaves rustling before a storm. Houses are piling up for sale, and that's a clue that prices might start dropping. And guess what? This summer is going to tell us a lot. It's like the big test to see if this trend keeps going or if things settle down. So, in simple words, we're at this tricky spot where things could go either way. Will the housing market keep climbing, or are we about to take a big dip? This summer is going to give us some real clues. It's all about watching and waiting right now. As always, hit that like and subscribe button if you found this interesting. And drop a comment below. Do you buy into my split coast theory? Let's keep the conversation going.